the way we make oils, the way the industry was making oils, was they treat them with sodium hydroxide. They press the oil out, they treat it with sodium hydroxide, then with phosphoric acid, very corrosive acid and base. Then they bleach it, then it goes rancid, and then they have to heat it to frying temperature to blow off the rancid molecules. Otherwise, the oil tastes bad and smells bad and nobody would use it. And so in the process, said the research, 0.5 to 1% of the molecules of the oil are damaged. So I called them and I said to them, why do you do this when you know it does damage? Here's the thing, people eat a lot of saturated fats, and saturated fats, the research says, make your platelets more sticky, so that heads you in the direction of a heart attack, and they make you more insulin resistant,
100%,
which heads you in the direction of diabetes. But here's the other news that isn't told, and it's important. Omega-3s make your platelets less sticky, and they make you more insulin sensitive. So what we blame on saturated fats only happens when you don't optimize your omega-3 intake. So it's actually an omega-3 deficiency problem.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Healthy Habit Podcast, episode number 88. To finish off 2023 here, it's a great way to finish it off here with our guest in a kind of a part 2 segment. Last time we spoke to this guest was episode 84, and we're live here today with Udo Erasmus, whose pioneering work in health and wellness started over 40 years ago. 4 decades this man's been in the health field, so you better start taking some notes, folks. As a prominent voice of the healthy fats and oils movement, Udo raised manufacturing standards of food oils, including flax oil. In 1994, he co-founded the UDO'S Choice supplement brand, a global leader in cutting-edge health products specializing in healthy oils, probiotics, which we talked about last time, digestive enzymes, and greens. Udo's an accomplished author of several books, including Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, with 250,000 copies sold, and with extensive education in biochemistry and biology and a master's degree in counseling psychology, Udo has impacted millions of lives by delivering his fresh message on how to achieve perfect health. Thank you for joining us here today again, Udo. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, glad to be on. So,
how have you been since our last discussion, episode 84, a couple shows back?
Breathing just regularly, just like I keep doing so far, 81 years.
Absolutely. That's a key, right? And most people, we're going to segue into our topic here in a moment, but since you brought that up, most people, and I talk about this a lot clinically with patients, they do that shallow breathing all day. Mm-hmm. They don't take that deep breath in. How important is that to expand our lungs and get that breath in?
Yeah, and to get it regularly and to get it unbroken, because when we get emotional, then we stagger our breath, so it's always good to practice breathing evenly and slowly and, not pushing it, not pulling it, not counting it, just following it, right? And then when you get that regularized, you actually get into the core of your own being. In fact, I wrote something down just before while I was waiting. I wrote down, no matter what goes on in politics and in the world, because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, right?
Right.
No matter what goes on in all of that, truth is still truth, and peace is still everywhere, and unconditional empowering love is still the essence of every human being. And if we have access to that, and it's important to have access to that, because otherwise you just get caught up in everything.
Wow.
To have access, when we have access to that, we can literally just be in peace and be in love and be content in the midst of all of this craziness going on. And maybe we can bring some peace and maybe we can bring some love to this craziness.
Interesting.
Because that's the cure for the craziness, is peace and love.
Absolutely. And I think
it's built into us. So it's like we have it available. We don't have to go out there for somebody. We don't have to go shopping for it. We just have to bring our focus to it inside.
You can't buy it on Amazon, right, Udo?
Nope. You could, even if you acquired all of Amazon, you would still not have it.
Right.
Because you came loaded with it. And Amazon, that's not what Amazon sells.
And that's important with coming back to the breath, right? That allows us to reconnect within instead of being pulled in all these different directions and
Yeah.
distractions around us. Getting back
Yeah.
into the breath is a good first step, right?
Yep. And it takes a little bit of practice to get good at it because we're good at going out. We're not so good at coming back. So practice, practice, practice until you get as good at going in as you have gotten going out.
Yeah.
And then you actually in charge of your life because you get to decide where your focus goes.
That's beautiful. And as I mentioned there, about 29 years ago in 1994, you co-founded the UDO'S Choice supplement brand. And in episode 84, we spoke on the raw probiotics, the importance of keeping them refrigerated. You gave us your pre-bedtime routine where you take the probiotics. And so that's a good episode. I suggest everyone go check that one out. So today we want to dive into the healthy oils. You're specializing in flax oil. We have your plant-based omega oil here, the 369 blend. First, let's take a step back. Tell us, and then we'll go into UDO'S oil. But how important is oils in general of having a piece in our diet?
Well, I didn't know how important it was until I got poisoned by pesticides, and the doctors couldn't help me. And so I was looking and say, okay, the body's made out of food, water, and air. So if something goes wrong, the way you fix it is you raise the standard for food, water, and air intake. And your body rebuilds itself 98% every year. So in 1 year, by raising your standard, you can have rebuilt 98% of your body to a higher standard. That's called healing. That's why healing is possible, because the body is always turning over. So I got into looking at minerals and vitamins and amino acids, fatty acids, fats, everything, because I was really wanted to, I had good background in biochemistry and genetics, but I was not in nutrition. So I got super interested in health, and I was going through all the journals and reading all the science.
Yeah.
And there was a study that said omega-6 is an essential nutrient. That means you can't make it, you have to have it, and you have to get it from outside. If you don't get enough long enough, you die. Mm-hmm. But if you bring enough back before you die, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed. Because life knows what to do when we may take responsibility for bringing in all of the building blocks it needs to do that work. And the next study I read said omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. And my head exploded. It was like, how the hell can that be? I have to have it to live and be healthy, and then it gives me cancer and kills me? And it was like, no, I'm missing something. There's something going on here. I need to know what that is. And that forced me to look deeper, to find out how oils are made, and of course, how we use them as well. And I found out that the way we make oils, the way the industry was making oils, was they treat them with sodium hydroxide. They press the oil out, they treat it with sodium hydroxide, then with phosphoric acid, very corrosive acid and base. Then they bleach it, then it goes rancid, and then they have to heat it to frying temperature to blow off the rancid molecules. Otherwise, the oil tastes bad and smells bad, and nobody would use it. And so in the process, said the research, 0.5 to 1% of the molecules of the oil are damaged. So I called them and I said to them, why do you do this when you know it does damage? He said, well, one of the reasons we do it is we can get rid of half of the pesticides in the oil. And I'm going, my head blew up again, right? I'm thinking, oh my God, I got poisoned by pesticides. The other half of the pesticides stay in the oil? I didn't even know there were pesticides in the oil at that point, right? So I said to him, well, why don't you start with organically grown seeds? Then you don't have that problem. And he had no answer. So there was a long silence. And then he got mad at me. He said, what the hell is your problem? It's only 1% damaged and it's 99% good. And, why are you squawking? So now I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm overreacting. So I decided to do some math. And the question was, and I'm going to ask you that question, I want your answer. If you have a tablespoon of oil that is 1% damaged, how many damaged molecules are you going to have in that tablespoon of oil?
If 1% is damaged?
1% damaged.
I don't know right now. Tell me, it's probably not what I'm thinking, but 99%.
No. It is 99% good, but I need a number. What is the number of damaged molecules?
Oh, I got it.
You don't have a basis. 1 million? Okay, perfect. I do this all the time with live audiences, and I get them to guess.
Yes.
And they always guess at least 1 billion times too low. the number of damaged molecules. It's actually 60 quintillion.
Even though only a percentage is being rancid and damaged, you're saying you're still
Yeah,
getting...
because molecules are
crazy.
really small.
Yeah.
You're getting 60 quintillion damaged molecules in that tablespoon.
Yeah.
And that's more than 1 million damaged molecules that you're sticking into your body. More than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells. Now, most people use 2 to 4 tablespoons. You got to multiply that in. Then there's pesticides in there. You got to add that too.
Right.
Then they're in plastic, and the plastic leaches into oil more than into water because oils swell plastic when you put them in it. So it should be in glass, but they're not. And then you fry it, use it for frying. You have to multiply that number by another 3 to 6 times because light, oxygen, and heat damage oils because they're the most sensitive of our nutrients and need the most care, but we give them the least care. And then you do that for 30 years. And there's research that shows that when you damage the oils, you increase inflammation and you increase the risk of cancer. After 30 years, if nothing goes wrong when you do that, then no, that's not possible. And then people say, well, I always ate good but they didn't know. Nobody ever told them. And I say to them, okay, look, you're going home for the holidays and somebody tells you that your chance of crashing and dying was more than 1 billion times higher than you thought it was, would you get on the airplane?
Nope.
When I was in Ireland, I said I would canoe back to Canada. My chance would not be good, but I would not get on that airplane. And what you just said, what did you say? How many did you say?
1 million.
You said 1 million.
Yeah.
So
not even close.
It's 60 quintillion is a 6 followed by 19 zeros. Yeah. You gave me 6 zeros. Exactly. So you're 13 zeros too short. So 13 zeros is 1,000 million, billion, trillion. So a 6 trillion times, 60 trillion times too low. Right? Yeah. And the reason I say that is like when people use oils, they don't realize they're doing something to themselves that is 1 billion times worse than they think. That's the point of it. Yeah. And now, is that enough? Is that an eye-opener to think, gee, maybe we ought to get our oils, our most sensitive nutrients that are essential. Right. Maybe we ought to get them made with health in mind. When I did the math, that's the conclusion I came to. I can't get healthy on oils that are damaged like this, that give me so many damaged molecules. We should make oils with health in mind. And that idea was I then developed a method where the oils are protected from light and from oxygen, and they're pressed at low temperature. So you don't damage the oil because you're trying to keep it fresh so it retains its health benefits. And then we came out with flax oil, which was the richest source of omega-3, because in 1981, the year after I got poisoned, it was established that omega-3 is an essential nutrient. That was known for omega-6 in 1929, 1981 for omega-3. And I said, oh my God, if we could make oil, and 99% of the population doesn't get enough omega-3 for optimum health, and every cell requires it. And the omega-3s and 6s both play very powerful, very important moment-to-moment hormone-like regulatory functions in the body. And these are called eicosanoids, and they're made from the essential fatty acids in the body. Yeah. And I said, oh my God, if we could make oils with health in mind, or omega-3s with health in mind, and bring them back into the population. Because what else I found out is we doubled our omega-6 intake in the past 100 years, and we lowered our omega-3 intake down to 16% of what people got in 1850. So we've completely messed up the ratio. A lot of omega-3, hardly any omega-3s. Oh my God, if we could bring the omega-3s back, oh my God, we could help almost everybody. And I got so excited that it's like, that's what carried the whole project. Yeah. I was so excited. Oh my God, we can help so many people, because it feels really good in your heart when you help people. That's what, right? And it's like, oh, I have a purpose. This is a good purpose. This is worth doing.
And this is exactly what Udo's referring to here. The average American omega-3 to 6 ratio, you can see, is about 20 to 1 if I zoom in here. Yeah.
20 to 1. Yeah, it's 10 to 1, 20 to 1. For some people, it's 50 to 1.
50 to 1. Yeah, I've heard 40 plus. Yep.
Yeah,
So
and
what's
they're
the
both.
problem with that? What's the problem with that?
Well,
then
what the problem is
with
that
this?
you get the essential fatty acids, and they're converted in the body into all kinds of like in omega-3, EPA and DHA, but EPA is converted into these hormone-like regulating substances. DHA is required for brain function and
Yeah.
for vision and sperm formation. And out of it, the body makes antioxidants and anti-inflammatories, very powerful molecules. But the enzymes that convert them, it's the same enzymes for omega-6 and omega-3. And what happens is you get a ton of omega-3 and hardly any a ton of omega-6 and hardly any omega-3.
Yeah.
And then the omega-6s will crowd out the omega-3s, and the omega-3s cannot get converted and do their function. And that's because of how we've changed the diet. Yeah. The ratio between the two is really important. So I created flax oil because it's the richest in omega-3. I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil because flax oil by itself has too much omega-3. It's the only oil that has that problem. Too much omega-3 for the amount of omega-6 it has. And I got dry eyes, skipped heartbeats, arthritis-like pain in finger joints, and thin papery skin. And I fixed it. Those are classic omega-6 deficiency symptoms. I fixed them by using sunflower seeds because sunflower oil is only omega-6s and no omega-3s. So I brought the balance back. I said, okay, we need to make a blend where that can happen. And that's how UDO'S oil came along. We have twice as much omega-3s, omega-6. Flax is 4 times as much omega-3s, omega-6. That's too high. So 2 to 1. And that's where we've always got the best results.
Yeah.
In terms of, we did some studies with athletes. If they took a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day, that's our winter dose.
Yeah.
Mixed in food intake spread out over the course of the day. Within 30 days, if they did their sport to exhaustion, their performance increased by 40 to 60%. So amazing for energy production. And then the thing people most rant about is how it makes their skin. Their skin, when you get enough oil, your skin becomes soft, smooth, and velvety because omega-3 and 6 together form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture. And then you don't need moisturizers and all the gunk that people put on. If your skin is dry, you need more oil. You need more oil in winter than in summer because, people notice that in winter their skin is drier than in summer. Yeah. Because in winter you burn more oil for energy to keep warm. So omega-3s keep you warm. They're also required in the brain. The brain is, if you take the water out of the brain, what's left is over 60% fat. And it's omega-3 and 6 derivatives in about a 1-to-1 ratio. They're super important for pregnancy because during pregnancy, a woman has to maintain her own brain, but she has to build another brain in her womb.
Right.
So she needs so the researchers say that they've shown that each child gets less omega-3s than the previous child because most women don't get enough omega-3s, just like most men don't. Each child gets less than the previous child. Each child depletes the mother further. And they think that that's the reason why women get the following conditions 2 to 15 times more often than men. And those are depression, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, collagen, inflammatory, and autoimmune diseases. Yeah. Women get this 2 to 15 times more frequently than men. And the researchers said that they think that it's because when the depletion of essential fatty acids during pregnancy sets them up for those conditions in a way that men are not set up because men never get pregnant. Right. And so they recommend that women need to make sure they get a reliable source of both essential fatty acids, and I add to that non-toxic and not damaged, organic, made with health in mind. They need to make sure they get a reliable source of those, both for their own health and the health of their children.
And everything that goes into this product, if you're viewing this on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, we're looking at UDO'S oil here through the company Flora. You can go to florahealth.com. That's Flora health.com. We're looking at UDO'S oil 369 blend. So everything is very specifically done here. It's in glass, UDO, right? It's not heated.
It's in glass, and we even put it in a box to cut out the light because light damages oils. Yeah.
Right. So imagine people...
And it's refrigerated.
Imagine people
And
in the grocery store just getting with the light slapping down on the canola oil just in a
yeah,
plastic bottle.
yeah, oh yeah, all the oils are in transparent plastic sitting on shelves. There's light hitting them all the time.
Yeah.
And light causes free radicals and they cause chain reactions. And you don't even know what all happens. And there's a lot of light. Like every photon
Yeah.
can do a chain reaction that goes 30,000 steps before it stops on
Again,
average.
yeah.
It's
So
all been measured.
unbelievable. That's unrefined and freshly pressed in a state-of-the-art, low heat, low light, and oxygen-free environment to
Yeah.
optimize freshness and provide maximum nutritional value. All the products are non-GMO, organic, vegan, in glass bottles. And if you want to look at the ingredients, you can see the whole setup here. It's the flax, sunflower, sesame, coconut, evening primrose, soy lecithin, rice bran. Then you have oat bran oil. How would you use this?
Yeah.
Just a tablespoon over a salad, or just straight into the mouth? How would you take this?
No. Don't take oil off a spoon. It's meant to be with foods, so you lose it in foods, and it's compatible with all foods. Vegetables, fruits, protein, starch. And the only thing is that if you're on a starch-rich diet and you add oil to it, you may put on some weight. You will then blame it on the oil, but you should blame it on the starch. So when you start using more of the good oils, then you want to maybe lower your starch intake a little bit, because it's kind of like, and oils, actually, the omega-3s, they turn on fat burning in your body. They're very useful for weight management if you use them instead of carbs. So you switch from carbs to good oils. They're the only thing that you need from fats in your diet. You don't need saturated, you don't need unsaturated. Your body can make those out of sugar and starch. You need omega-3 and omega-6 and everything else the body can make that you need. The body
makes its own cholesterol stores. It's like all the people are eating fat, but bad types of fat. So imagine replacing that for these.
But even this, so your whole fat intake should revolve around the two essentials that you can't make, that you have to have. Here's the thing: people eat a lot of saturated fats, and saturated fats, the research says, make your platelets more sticky, so that heads you in the direction of a heart attack, and they make you more insulin resistant,
100%,
which heads you in the direction of diabetes. But here's the other news that isn't told, and it's important. Omega-3s make your platelets less sticky, and they make you more insulin sensitive. So what we blame on saturated fats only happens when you don't optimize your omega-3 intake. So it's actually an omega-3 deficiency problem. And when you optimize your omega-3s, the way we're talking about, a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day, then you can eat saturated fats because they neutralize that effect of saturated fats. So it's the context that's important here.
Right.
But when they talk about saturated fats, they're always working with people who don't have enough omega-3s in their diet, because 99% of the population doesn't have enough omega-3s in their diet.
Yeah.
But they don't take that into account, and they should.
Right, and there's actually a good blood test you can do. We've been doing this a lot this year in 2023. You can do you draw the blood just into a normal tube, like when you go for a routine blood test, and you check the omega-6 to 3 ratio in the blood, which is a good place to start to see where you're at with your lipid panel.
Yeah.
So that's
I don't do that. I just use the oil.
Sure.
And it's my go-to oil. So I use it with whatever. I make dips and you can put it in shakes and in smoothies, and even you can put it on steamed vegetables in pasta sauce, like they're hot, but you don't put the oil in until it comes off the heat. And you absolutely never, ever, 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 ever use it for frying. In fact, I tell people, you have a frying pan, go get it, haul it out, turn it upside down, hit yourself up the side of the head with it, so it's associated with pain, because frying is the single most damaging thing that we have ever invented to do with our food. And again, cooks who spend 8 hours in front of the frying pan cooking for people, they have 4 times more lung cancer than normal people who maybe spend 2 hours in front of the frying pan, like at home cooking, right? Because everybody's doing it. but they have 4 times more lung cancer than normal people.
And most
Because
restaurants,
they're in-
yeah, well, I
because
was
they're
gonna say
breathing in
most
all the time.
restaurants switch to those rancid oils as well, like soybean oil, and then they're breathing in all that. They're not
Yeah, yeah.
using
Well, they're
stable
they're
fats anymore.
yeah, they're already damaged by the industry, maybe 1%, right? But then they put them in the frying pan and damage them a ton more, and then they're breathing in the fumes. And you know what those fumes smell like. Some people actually get sick when they smell fried oil,
Yeah.
right? And so that's really, so how should you cook? Cook in water and add good oils afterwards. When you add oil to foods, which is why you want to add them to foods, they enhance flavor and they increase the absorption of the oil soluble nutrients in the food. And some of those are super, super good for health.
I need to have you on again very soon here, Udo. Look at that. We've already had 25 minutes down the pipe here, but I want to ask you one more question, but I do want to talk to you again in 2024, Udo, which sounds like it's so far away, but that's in a couple of months. It's in next month.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
Yeah. What about people that are only relying on salmon for their omega-3s? Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, because
what's the issue there?
You have to talk about food oil foundation and supplement oils.
Yeah.
Okay. So the food oil foundation is plant-based. It's the oils. I'm talking about UDO'S oils like that, plant-based oils. They have omega-3 in the form of alpha-linolenic acid and linoleic acid for omega-6. And then the body will convert those into the oils that you find in the cold water, high-fat fish, EPA and DHA. EPA and DHA are not essential nutrients, although in the marketplace people claim that, but they're not.
Wow.
They're essential fatty acid derivatives that your body can make if you get enough starting material. So what we addressed is getting the starting material.
That's powerful.
And if you eat fish oils, they will not fix your damaged food oil foundation. You have to fix the foundation. I say to people, your body needs an oil change just like your car.
Wow.
You got to get the dirty oil out and replace it with clean oil so that you can get your motor to hum. Your motor, your body, right? So the body needs an oil change, and a supplement will not fix what's wrong with the foundation. Fix the foundation, and then in addition, a supplement may be helpful. And fish is now, and the other problem is that fish is now the dirtiest meat on the planet because the oceans are our sewers, and everything on land ends up in the ocean. And if it's fat soluble, ends up in fat in the ocean. And the higher on the food chain, and salmon is pretty high on the food chain, the higher it's on the food chain, the more concentrated all the toxins become. So now it's the dirtiest meat on the planet. I stopped eating salmon probably about 5 or 10 years ago. I used to love eating it.
Yeah.
I wish it was clean. I would highly recommend it if it was clean.
Right.
But you get the toxins.
That's a very, very powerful thing there. No one's ever mentioned that on the show here. So where do fish get it from? They get it from the plants too, the algae, right, first, and then
the algae make it for them, but then the krill eat the algae, and then the little fish eat the krill, and the big fish eat the little fish, and then it goes up the food chain. DHA and EPA are not usually made by the fish.
This is going to help a lot of people, Udo. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on for episode number 88. Yep. We'll talk with Brendan to set up number 3 here soon.
All right. We got to do one on enzymes too.
That's the next one up. Thank you so much for your time, Udo. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. You know, I'm glad you get the education out.
Have a great finish off to your year and great holidays.
Yeah, and you too.
Thank you.